Hello, Katie.
Hello, Val. Welcome to creating hair in Cinema 4D.
Yeah, some students have been requesting for us to show them how to make hair, and it's very simple. We're going to be showing it in Cinema 4D, but also we're going to be using Octane. But if you're using the Redshift, Standard Renderer, Arnold, whatever you want, it's going to work the same way because the hair engine comes inside Cinema 4D. It's only about the interpretation of how the hair looks, but everyone is going to see that actually it's very simple, the interpretation that the render engine is doing. So in order to have hair, we need first good geometry, and that's what we have here. We have created this character. This is done from cubes subdivided, and we managed to get this very soft geometry on the head. Those ears came from cubes as well, and then using splines and sweep nerves, we made this lovely bow and the hat.
Yeah, nothing was used here that hasn't been taught in other courses we have in Batata
and
School.
we recommend doing the isometric room. You want to learn all the tools on how to make something like this in Cinema 4D. But this is the main part we're going to show here is how we can add hair to this. And you can see that the hat is a bit bigger than the geometry of the head, and that's because it's going to allow for the space of the head.
Yeah, and the ears are a bit separated as well.
Yeah, it's already quite prepared for it, but you're going to be able to adapt it when you make your own characters. We're going to provide these files so people can practice. Oh, and another thing is that we already are illuminating the scene with an HDRI coming from our collection. In this case, it's the number 2, Cool and Warm, and it's very important. Oh, it's saying error loading the texture. Let me see 1 second. I'm going to reload it. We have it here, Cool and Warm. And you can download them from Batata School, and you have them there. And now when I go there again, we should be able to see it. And there we have it. So we have it there. I'm going to lower a tiny bit the power. And we have here our HDRI. And you can rotate it, and you can see how this works. I really like this one because, right now we're getting a lot of reflection from the lights in our background. If you don't want that, you simply make a bit more roughness on your background so it diffuses the light. But it's really nice, this HDRI, because it has a bit of warm light on one side and a bit colder in the other, and you can rotate it and you can generate this really nice soft light on the side.
And that's going to look so nice when we have hair because it's going to be catching in the texture in different ways.
Exactly. And now to make hair, it's really simple. We need to select geometry. In this case, I'm going to make sure that I'm selecting everything. So I'm selecting all and unlocking all of this that was locked, and I'm selecting all my geometry, or it could be as well in object mode. It applies anyway. And now we can go to simulate, add objects, add hair. Now automatically when I add it, a few things happen. Oh, by the way, I had a few hairs from before that I was practicing. I'm gonna get rid of that because the first time you do it, you are only gonna get these hairs. It's gonna be hair material that is created automatically. This very ugly brown hair that is very spiky, very simple.
And incredibly long, no?
Extremely long. By the way, I'm doing Octane at the same time. If your computer goes slowly, you can deactivate it. But right now it seems to be going well, so I can work with it at the same time. And the thing I'm going to do first is make my hair shorter. And you see that this new object has been created called hair. And it's the hair for that automatically was created when we used it to simulate. The length is 100 centimeters. That's a meter. That's kind of like half of almost a basketball player. So we can make it much shorter. And you can see now it's going to be slowly. So I'm going to stop it there for a second and kind of making it shorter there. And let's make something like 3 centimeters. So that's a bit better. If now we render, we can see that my hair is already looking much better. And you can see that there is not a lot of density everywhere, but the density is defined by this count, and this count we're not going to touch. This count depends on the faces of our polygons, how many, the resolution of the geometry. And the resolution of the geometry can be changed by, let's say, for example, subdividing more our geometry. And you can see I can go here to our geometry. And you can see if I put a different display mode, you can see the amount of points we have. And you can see that the hairs are growing from every of those points. You see? So if we had more resolution in the geometry, we would have more hair. In this case, we have 6,000 hairs.
I guess as well, because we have everything modeled in this nice way, subdividing cubes, it creates a very even...
Fantastic. All the normals are pointing well. It's all even. Yeah, it's important to model well. Everything is a continuum, I think, when we are making 3D. And if we have good models, it's much easier to get good results. The next thing we're going to do is, instead of adding more hairs here, these hairs are going to be very important because these are the ones that are going to allow us, we're going to be able to modify them and kind of comb it and give a haircut even if we want to our character. But then there are some hairs that are simulated by the program. So we are actually seeing more hairs than 6,000. And here we can add a few. Right now we have 50,000. Imagine that we wanted 150,000. And we need to be careful with this because this is going to make our computer go a bit slowly. But now we have 3 times the hair. And you see that already we are getting a lot of density. And if there are some holes there, no worries. You can either put a bit of color on the back of the character so that's not visible. And also when we curl the hair, it's going to cover things much better. But it's important because we didn't add hairs in here. We only added hairs on the render part. And that makes the computer go a bit faster. But we still have a lot of flexibility. And now let's see the next thing we can do. And the first time I discovered this, I thought, wow, this is amazing. So in the Simulate tab, in the hair tools, we have a brush, a comb, clamp, curl, cut, push, and this does exactly what you think it does. So you select a brush, we have radius, so we can check and make it smaller, circle, box, diamond, different shapes if we want for the way we are using our comb. That would be us having a comb that is that shape. And now we can look what's happening.
You're literally combing your hair down.
I'm combing the hair by hair, and then when we simulate, I'm going to see the camera from there. You can see that the hairs I was modifying then are having that shape. You see that the hairs at the very top, they kind of have a black little dot. That's because the hairs right now are quite thick. You can see how they look here. They are quite thick, and at the very, very end, they are not completely small, like they have a little bit like of a hole at the end. That thing can be changed. If we go inside the hair, I'm going to do double click here. In the thickness, it goes from 1 to 0.1. So if we want the top, we can make it a bit smaller, 0.01 for the top. And you can see now that all of these little hairs, when it updates, are going to get way smaller and you don't get that effect. And also the root, sometimes I make it smaller. 1 centimeter is so thick for a hair. I don't know why the program comes with such an exaggerated size for things, because I think it's much prettier. You need to find the balance, but this feels a bit more like hair to me.
I suppose it depends what you're making as well. We love making animal characters. So it will be a bit different from a human maybe.
Yeah, and now you're seeing that you can comb it a bit. So, but if you don't want to comb and curl hair by hair, there are some properties that we can add that affect all the hairs at the same time. So let's see what we can do. We can add any of these properties and you can check what they are. You know, this is about playing with them, but I'm going to show you the ones I really like. For example, curl is going to make all my hair suddenly get a bit of a curly effect. And remember, these effects here, but it's not going to show here because these are the guides that we can comb ourselves. So I'm going to make the hair in general from here a bit longer so we can see better what's happening, and then we can make it shorter if we need. I'm going to make it 15. So it's a very, very obvious length of hair and we can see what is happening. So you can see with curl what happened. The entire hair is getting a kind of a curl that is affecting all over the shape. That can be really good. You can see that the place where I was playing with kind of is all a bit messy. But curl is good, but sometimes what we want to get is something more, let's say, for example, fritz. Let's see what fritz does. Is the fritz affecting there? Okay, I'm gonna deactivate and activate again.
And if your program goes a bit slowly, that might be because of the very high hair count that we have on there.
We are having right now a very, very, very one. And I can play with them. Let's add a bit of kink. We could have, to be honest, a bit less hair right now, but I was trying with probably a bit too many.
Because do you usually test them and then add more hair towards the end, or how does that work?
Oh, I usually play. The way I like to work is I usually like working on the real model. We could be checking this on a sphere, and to be honest, I can do it on a sphere. But I a lot of times enjoy seeing the final result as soon as I work. But like, let's do it on a sphere so everyone can understand a bit better what's happening. So I'm gonna make that hair disappear, all the hair. I'm gonna deactivate it because I want to make very obvious so people can see which ones are my favorite ones. I'm deactivating the hair. There's no hair right now. Let me see if I reload. Now the program is gonna go very smooth, so I can move the camera around and it's gonna go smooth. And I'm gonna make it quickly in a sphere. I'm gonna make my sphere. I'm gonna make my sphere having more segments, so we have more space for the hair to grow. And I'm gonna put that there. And I'm gonna scale it a bit down. I think that sphere is good, and I think I need to make it editable. I'm pretty sure you have to. So now I'm gonna go simulate, add hair. So now I added hair to my sphere, and let's do something similar with my sphere. I can make a hair a length of 20, and let's make it way less hair. So it's maybe 10,000. So I'm trying to have something that is not as heavy, and my program is going to work much better when I move. So this is now my new hair, and let's see a few of those properties. So we were saying kink. Let's see what it does. You can see in here that the kink is kind of making a bit of a wavy on individual hairs. It's not that they are wavy across all the hairs. You see now what our hairs are doing, and that's one of my favorite ones for when we're making characters.
Yeah, making animal characters especially.
Yeah,
it makes that kind of nice fur.
I'm going to deactivate kink, and I'm going to do clump. That's another one I like, and that's what creates is like little islands of hair. And I think this one is much easier to understand if you have a bit more hair. So I'm going to show you here. I'm going to put much more hair. And what it does groups of hair. It happens sometimes when you have like certain animals that kind of little blocks of hair get together. Do you see now how it's happening? And that's really cool. I think sometimes if you're making something that might be more of a lion or things like that, the hairs get together. The same with Titan. Titan kind of like brings it back towards the tip. So now the hair is kind of going to bend towards itself. Let me see if it updates. But now it kind of is destroying the clump because you cannot see it anymore. But the thing that you have in each property, you have the amount. I'm going to do a tiny bit less hairs now. So we are back into something that is gonna break my computer. But we can say, for example, with the Titan, you can do only an amount of, let's say, 30. So now we're having a bit of Titan and a bit of clump together. What I recommend to people is to try them all and to try to see what they do. So I'm saying usually like fridge and kink I use a lot. Sometimes these twists, for example, kind of twist the entire hair. You cannot see it much now, but if you make it longer, you can see that more. A wave, it kind of generates a wave across the hairs and also individually. You see how they are having a bit of a waviness, you see?
Yeah.
You see that waviness they are getting. Straighten, if then you need to straighten them back. Scale changes the scale of the hairs in different parts. So you can say the amount of variation. You can say a variation of 100% of a scale of 200. So now some hairs are going to be ridiculously long and some hairs are going to be very short.
Oh, yeah.
It gives this variation, and sometimes that's really good because you want to add randomness to the entire thing.
Yeah, it's almost a bit more of a messiness there.
Exactly. But now, once we have that, I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to go back to the hair we had before. 150 was a lot. I'm going to go to 10,000 for now because I want to be able to work with the computer. So I'm going to get rid of the sphere now that we explained all of that, and I'm going to bring back my character. Okay, so we have it there. We don't have much hair right now, but I'm going to show another thing that people were asking for, and I think that is very interesting when we're making characters. People were saying, how do I make the hair to have different colors throughout? Because if, let's say, I'm making a Dalmatian, I'm going to want to have that black and white effect on the hair.
Sure. Or sometimes even a certain dog might have more of a brown nose, or the eye area might be a bit different. It's so nice having that variation.
Exactly. So to do that, we're going to do it like this. So we can do it from a texture if we have a texture of, if we have UV texture our project, but it's going to be much more simple what I'm going to do. I'm simply going to make a material. In this case, it's an Octave material, but if you are using Redshift, you can make a Redshift material. And I'm going to add that material to the geometry. So I'm going to drag and drop it, and now we have it in the geometry of my head. And now in that material, in diffuse, I'm going to add a noise. So I'm going to go there, I'm going to add noise. And you see that at the beginning, the noise is not very soft. It looks as if it's blurred. Let's put the contrast up. Let's make it very obvious. Sometimes I like doing things that are going to show me that the thing I'm doing is working. And let's make the scale a bit bigger. And as you were saying before, yeah, you could even slowly move this noise and adjust it so you get the black areas what you want and the white areas what you want. And this is black and white, by the way, but this could be any color you want. You know, you could make if someone wants to make, let's say, a brownish to, and I'm gonna select. Sometimes I select the same brown in a different area, and maybe I kind of play and I make that darker. I want to have something very obvious because I want it to be obvious in the hair when we make it. Okay, so imagine that's the hair, the colors we want for the hair. So what we're gonna do is, now that we have it there, I'm gonna copy this this material, this noise. So I'm copying the noise. I'm gonna close this material because this material is only in the background. And now in the hair that we are having on the object, when we go to double click the hair material, when we double click the hair material that is being applied there, and by the way, we don't have a lot of hair right now, so let's add a tiny bit more, add 110, so we can see it there. And maybe we're gonna add a bit of thickness because if not, it's not gonna be very visible. But you know that we have it there already. Now in my color, you see that here we have a texture in my color. I can say that I want a surface one, and I can copy and paste my material. And now, sometimes it takes a tiny bit to load. There. Now if I reload, my entire noise texture is going to be applied to the colors of the hair, the individual hairs, and that's a super cool effect that we are making in the program. You see that there? So this is not something we are applying on top, but that we are having transparency in behind. Actually, I could now get rid of the geometry, and still the hair itself is having the color. You see that right now there's no geometry behind this. We are only seeing the hairs, but the hair itself is having the color that represents that noise. And this, the creative, options for this, the amount of things we can do with this is fantastic. It's so good.
Would it be possible to upload our own images?
Yeah, we can make our own patterns to add to the hair. We can make really creative things. If we want to make little monsters, we can make so many things. Or we could make a furry jacket. Because this is all can be applied to clothes, and we can make a furry jacket, make a pattern for the jacket, and apply it to the hair. So many possibilities we have when we are making hair like this. I'm going to bring back the geometry. Usually I like having the same texture in the geometry behind, because as you can see now, you were seeing the background. But if we have the geometry, and when Octane loads it back, it kind of covers in case we have any mistakes. So it is a thing that usually I like using to make sure that I'm not having problems with the show of my hair. And now that we have it there, I can make it a tiny bit shorter, because right now it's 15 centimeters. Let's make it 9, because we want to be able to see the eyes and to see the mouth and everything. But there's another trick now. Imagine that we say, okay, around the area of the mouth, I'm not seeing enough of this hair. And by the way, I can put a bit, let's put a bit of, we have maybe a bit of curl for the hair. I'm just adding a bit more variation so it doesn't look that perfect. But what we can do as well, and the curl is already kind of bringing it back, so we are having less and less problems seeing the eyes and all of that.
Looks a bit more dog-like, actually, this one.
So, and I think, by the way, that the colors right now need to be adjusted, but like we are more looking at the things we can do to improve the image and how to work with it. But if you're having particular areas, for example, I'm going to stop Octane for a second there. But if you're having, imagine that you have this area in which the hair is crossing, like you have it there.
Yeah, through the hat.
So I'm going to undock this there, because that's what's making things slow. So we can go and simulate, go to my hair tools and use the cut. And the cut works like this. This is not making hairs disappear. You are individually cutting those hairs. So you go laterally, and wherever you click, you see how the hair is getting shorter there? So you can slowly get rid of the hairs that are crossing, and you're giving a haircut to the character, You can make any of the hairs. I imagine that around here, around the area of the nose, you want to give it a haircut, and you can give a haircut to that area. So now the area of the nose is going to get less hair. And imagine the area of the mouth. And the mouth was already floating in the air a bit, because you can see that it works much better if it floats in the air, because the hair is kind of mixing with it, behind it. And That's looking really cool. Okay. And now, before I do more, I'm gonna do the same, and I'm gonna use the same materials for my ears. So my ears, you see that they were in asymmetry, but then we collapsed them, so now they are all together. And that's because we need geometry. If you are in asymmetry, hair is not gonna work. So now I'm gonna do simulate, add hair again. I'm gonna do the same with the other one. This is gonna be, or maybe it's gonna be even a bit shorter, only 7, so that we have the geometry for the ears. What we can do is, instead of using the hair that now it generated, we can get the previous hair and pressing Alt at the same time, we kind of put it on top. So now we are collapsing and everyone is using the same hair. And sometimes I do it because you don't want to be individually controlling so many properties. And usually the character, to be more graphical, has the same hair all over.
Yeah, we want the kind of consistency in the colors and everything.
Exactly.
Well.
The same here is working well. The only thing for the to make sure that we are not having problems seeing the white of the ears, what I would do is I would go to my ears geometry and drag and drop the material. So now we have as well the geometry having the material with the same color. And of course, right now, the color that we put is so exaggerated. Usually I would put my brown in a way softer version. It's like you want to see the variations of color, but remember that you cannot be exaggerated when you do these things.
Yeah, I suppose it's helpful sometimes to start being more exaggerated and then tone it down a bit once you understand what's going on.
Exactly. As you understand more, you can play a bit more with the strong colors and with things, but at the beginning try to be a bit soft in the way you make all these things, because if not, it can go all over the place. So I hope you enjoyed it. I think that we have covered many of the parts of hair, and I know it's sometimes can be a bit complicated because the computer tends to get very slow, and I think when we have things like this in which the computer gets slow, it's very easy to get frustrated or start doing things that are overcomplicating it. In general, what I try is don't work with super dense geometry, especially if your computer is slow. Only do combing and haircuts when you need it, but in general, try to use the properties from the hair to generate a nice distribution of the hair and the hair that sits well on your character. And also experiment. Don't use always the same one. Try to see with little details. Don't activate them all at the same time. Try to see what happens if you use a bit of curl, a bit of clump, and with that you can make things that are very pretty. And the final thing is, once you have everything there, I really recommend, whatever render you're using, add a light and try to put a soft, warm light behind the character. Like, it's so pretty with her, and I'm going to stop the render for a bit because you can see already it's going slowly with so many things at the same time. But there's something very pretty about having a light behind the hair, because think that this hair interacts completely with our scenes.
Yeah, it's interesting how much of this tutorial is not only about the hair. There's so much around it. If you have a good model with good geometry, if you have a well-lit scene,
100%.
you have good colouring, there's a lot more than just the hair simulation. That part actually is a lot about up to you understanding it and tweaking it when it's needed patiently.
100%.
There's no secrets.
It happens a lot when we're making things that we need to think not only about the main tool, but also everything that is behind it. Like, as you are saying really well, like things like the geometry, or how we model something, or how something works, is very important. And I really like what I'm doing here right now. My light might be visible, but you can deactivate it here in visibility, so it's not visible by the camera. But you can see here, if we make a light, and in my light settings and my temperature, I make it very warm, you can see now I can get that nice warm light on the side of the hair. And that's the very, very important thing. A lot of the quality of the hair comes from how we light it.
Yeah.
And then if you really like how it's looking, doing the haircut here, I got rid of a bit of the hair, and that was my mistake. But also, towards the end, just before the final render, put up the amount of hair, because that's going to give you the perfect result.
Yeah.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed all of this. By the way, final thing, if you are having any problems because the hair automatically comes with the dynamics enable, so if you go to the next frame, all of the hair is gonna fall. And in this mini tutorial right now, we're not covering hair dynamics. So what we recommend is deactivate the dynamics. So if you deactivate the dynamics on both hairs, that means that if you're having any animation or anything else, you're going to be able to scroll through and the hair is not going to be bouncing against itself. I think that the dynamics of the hair are cool and they work well, but they slow down things so much that in 99% of the cases, even if you have character animation, if the hair is moving properly with the geometry, it looks fine. You don't need simulation on every single piece of hair.
Yeah, unless you're making a feature out of the hair for some specific reason.
For a specific reason, or you are making the new versions of like Monsters Inc.
Yeah.
But if you are making a project in which hair is not the main thing, just be efficient with a computer. And deactivating the dynamics is a top tip for that. And I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, this mini tutorial, and you'll have the file available for you. So play with it and can't wait to see what you make with hair.
Yeah, show us what you make.
Bye.
Thank you.